Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Danielle and I currently live alone and I'm trying to eat healthy while shopping on a budget. And I have gone into Lidl this week to get a selection of items, and you will be able to see that everything that I did get and how much it ended up costing me. And I do have a food plan going on as well, and I've decided to do it a little bit differently in terms of my food plan this week. So you stick around to after the actual grocery shop to be able to see my thought process and where each of those items that I've purchased are coming into the meals for the week. But if this is the kind of video that you enjoy, or meals of the week videos, recipe videos, mini reviews, all that sort of thing, and please do consider liking, subscribing, and I'll get on with the video now. But thank you for stopping by, everyone. All right, guys, so here we go. Here is everything I got in Lidl this week, and as always, I have popped that price tag up into the corner. I decided to get some deluxe Scottish salmon fillets. I do obviously sometimes get the normal ones, but they didn't look necessarily that fantastic, so I decided to get the fancy ones instead. And then I still have some normal mushrooms, and then I decided to get some baby button mushrooms as well. And again, on the trend of the deluxe version, I did need to get some chorizo, and you can obviously get the ones that are sort of shelf stable, but I decided to pick up the ones that are in the fridge section instead. And I obviously won't necessarily need all of that for the actual recipe that I do have planned, so I will incorporate it into some lunches or perhaps even a breakfast somewhere along the lines as well. And then I grabbed another potato, and this one made me chuckle with the little knobbly bit on the end there. But again, I'll be able to incorporate that either into a meal or just as part of a lunch or something, sort of as a jacket potato one day. And then I decided to get some basil. I would normally get a basil plant itself, but my flat's kind of moisture content means that I've been really struggling to keep plants alive and kind of mold free recently. So instead, I decided just to pick up some actual basil that way. And then I decided to get 2 types of salad. I'd normally obviously get a sweet and crunchy salad, but all of those ones had a discounted price tag on, and I didn't want to sort of necessarily have to rush to eat the salad immediately. So instead, I decided to get both of these, and I'll be able to mix them together as part of some of those lunches and dinner plans as well, mainly because I'm planning to have it on the side with a few sort of lighter bites. And then I picked up some salad tomatoes. There's a recipe I have that just said tomato, so I'm assuming it means a big-ish tomato. So I did just grab some of those, and still sticking with the green theme, or sort of the healthier theme, I suppose. I picked up some pak choy as well, again for a recipe that does involve that salmon and a few other things as well. And then I will just need to figure out how to incorporate the rest of it into a meal, sort of either this week or at the start of next week. And you know what I'm like, I do like to always get a bit more fruit or something, and where I still have the tiny bit of fruit left, I just picked up some blueberries as well. But then on the less healthy front, I ended up picking up some grana padano and some 50% less fat mature cheese. I thought about getting some, I think it was Parmigiano Reggiano as my choices between the two hard cheeses, but this grana padano was cheaper, so I obviously went for the cheaper one. And then I got some cottage cheese as well. Do have a few ideas as to how I can incorporate that either into breakfasts or lunches. But I did just want to have something that is a bit higher in protein that I can just snack on as well. I did ponder about picking up one of the flavoured ones and just eating it as it was, but I probably won't scoop quite down to that level at the moment. And then I had a free bakery spin. So I picked up a jam filled donut as well. And, that was definitely a wonderful thing to have, especially where it's free. Always helps make something tasty when it is free. And then I picked up some large eggs as well. I do still have some eggs left, but I'm wanting to still do some egg mayonnaise or sort of egg and Greek yogurt mix or something. And then I picked up some runny honey. All the honey that I had, where it had been so cold in my flat recently, had pretty much set and crystallized, and there was no saving it, even when I reheated it. So I did just pick up some more for a recipe. And I've been going through quite a lot of milk recently. So I did just pick up another long life semi skimmed milk to have there and ready to go for whenever I needed it. And like I say, even if that's just teas and coffees, sometimes the odd recipe here and there. But then the last thing I did pick up was some of the deluxe wholemeal seeded farmhouse and sort of 8 seed blend going on. And I have sort of a recipe for a dinner plan that involves a bit of bread. And then the rest of it I'll obviously just have as kind of breakfast and lunches throughout and put any that I need to into the freezer as well. I had a bit of a thought recently. So if you've been watching my grocery videos, my meals of the week videos, even some of my recipe videos, you might have realised that I've been struggling a bit recently. And I have so many cookbooks. When I say so many cookbooks, there are rows of them currently behind you everywhere. And I've decided that I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit, and I'm going to try to focus on 1 or 2 recipe books a week and look through them and figure out what meals I might want to do from them. And then perhaps in my meals of the week, I can show you them as I'm making them, go through any changes that I'd make, any alterations, what I actually thought of them, whether I'd recommend them in terms of them being easy for a regular sort of at-home cook that doesn't have necessarily fancy equipment, a lot of space in the kitchen, you know, doesn't necessarily want to be going out and spending a lot of money on different ingredients either. So I am going to get on with sort of starting that series over the next week or 2. And with that, I'm just going through the first book that I've decided to pick. And that is a recipe for every day of the year. And I can tell you now that I can't do recipes for every single day. I can't kind of start on the 1st of January and go through. To start with, we're in February anyway. But there are some things that I can't eat. There are lentils, there are certain beans, there are certain things there. But then there are also certain desserts and stuff. And where I live by myself, as much as I love dessert, I am also trying to eat healthy, and I can't really justify making some of these desserts because there would be so much effort to bring the ingredients down to just 1 or 2 portions for the kind of the time and the money that it would involve going into it. And they do often, desserts normally end up having more specialty ingredients as well, whether that's a different kind of sugar to the one that I have, more types of flour, larger quantities of flour than I perhaps currently have in my cupboard, or obviously just random bits and bobs as well, you know, in terms of seasonings, extracts, all that sort of thing. So I probably am going to generally ignore at the minute things like some of the dessert ones, something that I can perhaps revisit when I'm not living by myself or when I know that I'm going to be cooking for mum and I want to do a 2-part or something like that as well. But I am just going to go through this, and I have already jotted down the very first one I'm going to do. I'm just going to jot down kind of on a piece of paper each week what I plan to do. And I'm keeping it super simple because there is the first one here that is technically for the 1st of January. That is the all-day breakfast wrap. And, you know, it says pork sausage meat. Well, I have sausages in the freezer and I can just do those. I normally always have sort of mushrooms and eggs and tomatoes and things around as well. And then at the minute, I do happen to have some tortillas. So I was thinking that this would be a great way to use some of those things up without necessarily having to purchase anything more, or at least nothing out of the ordinary that I can incorporate into other dinners or into sort of lunches throughout the week as well. So where I am sort of doing this, I am also then going to jot down the actual things that I do need to purchase for the week on this separate page here as well from this notebook. So like I said, I will need to get some more mushrooms by then. And I will need to get some tomatoes as well. The thing is, it just says 2 tomatoes de-seeded and diced, so I can only presume that that means salad tomatoes. If it was just cherry tomatoes or baby plum tomatoes, then that obviously wouldn't really be very helpful. So I will say that this recipe book doesn't necessarily mention very specific things. You know, it manages to say 2 large eggs, but it doesn't manage to say what kind of tomato. So that's definitely a bit of a problem. But even then, I obviously will only need, you know, this is a serves for, it is for breakfast, but so I'll probably just need the 1 tomato from it instead. Like I said, that will be a nice, super simple one to just do for one day. And whether I do end up doing it more as a lunch or whether I do it as a dinner, we will see. But I'm just going to keep looking through this now. And when I find another one, I'll come back to you again then. All right, so I have skipped all the way through to the 11th of February and found another recipe. And this one, again, is in theory, it's listed as a light bite. But if I had this and just popped some salad on the side, it would be absolutely perfect to work with it as well. And it is just the spring onion Welsh rarebit. For anybody that doesn't know, that is kind of like a cheese on toast, but a bit fancier, I suppose. There we go, and that's on page 60 of this book. Let me make a note of it here. But it did throw me off a little bit because in my head, and perhaps this is just a thing that I've always been taught, but sort of in terms of it being a family thing. But I always thought that Welsh rarebit kind of had Worcester sauce in it. But this just has about 2 tablespoons of brown ale or milk instead. And then English mustard. Now, I have whole grain English mustard. Do you reckon that's what it means? Because you can obviously get various different kinds of English mustard. And it just saying English mustard is, again, not necessarily the most helpful thing to me. But there we go, and it is obviously giving me some sort of alternatives for the different kind of cheese that I could use. I probably just would go with normal cheddar cheese. I do love kind of blue cheese and stuff, but I'm not sure whether I would want to necessarily do that for this. So with that, I know that I'm going to have some spring onions still left, so I don't need to purchase any of those. I will get some more cheese because I am starting to run low on the cheese front. This has about an egg yolk. I still have plenty of that, and I will need to get some more milk by then though. And I have the mustard, and then I will just need to get some bread as well. And I will try to get some nice fancy bread to go with it. And with that, obviously, I will just put salad on the side here. I know what that means when I write it down. But again, there's something here. But then right next to it, that is the 12th of February, which is a 5-spice salmon. Now, if I didn't already have 5-spice, I absolutely would not be doing this recipe. But I do, so it all works out. And it's a good way actually to be able to use it. It does just mean that I will need to get some actual salmon, which obviously is definitely a little bit more pricey to some things. But let's keep going through everything here. So you make a note of it as well. All right, there we go, 5-spice salmon. And again, I think this is a very specific me problem. See, this one does happen to mention here about having pak choy, but it doesn't really mention things sort of like carbs with it. Now, I will end up probably just doing this with some rice cooker rice. You know, it's not the end of the world, but I think sometimes when you're trying to look to recipe books for inspiration, what you could really do with is pair it with this, just to completely take out any kind of moment of doubt in your mind about what would work and what wouldn't work. But I suppose we can't have it all one way. You know, it says here, sort of served with jasmine rice here, but it doesn't necessarily bring it into the recipe itself in terms of think about starting cooking this here, which if you're like me, means that when you're trying to focus really heavily on a recipe, you can sometimes forget that that is what you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, let me keep looking through this. All right, I have found another one, and you're probably going to laugh at me because if you do happen to stick around on my channel quite a lot, you might have seen recently that I have already been making quite a lot of quesadillas in various forms. It is something that I sometimes do when I'm in a bit of a recipe rut, when I'm in a bit of a cooking rut. But there is one here that is an onion and mushroom quesadilla. Again, it's super simple, but it can be then paired with some of that salad that I will be getting for one of the other recipes as well. So it's a good way to be able to incorporate everything without things kind of going to waste. And let's see here. Amusingly, it does have a teaspoon of caster sugar in it, which definitely has thrown me off a little bit. You know, it's not necessarily what you'd expect to have there. But I don't actually need to purchase anything extra for this because, again, I already still have some tortillas. And then I already have mushrooms on the list as well, and things like spring onions and normal onions. So that works out perfectly there. So that's 4 recipes so far. I'm probably going to find another couple just to see how we get along with everything. But once again, I'm currently in the start of March as well, by the way, which is what I mean by it's not necessarily... And this isn't to say that I don't want to do the other recipes, just some of them are definitely breakfast and dessert things. So I'll probably go back to them again at a later time. But let me keep on looking through these and finding another couple. All right, I have found another one. This is one that it does actually view as a main. It does suggest about putting it, say, with rice or something like that as well. But this one is technically from the 25th of March, but it is something that isn't super seasonal or anything. And I think it will be still good to be having just at the end of February into the start of March as it is, as I am sort of going through doing this list. And it is a lemon chili chicken. And again, the reason I'm doing this is I have chicken in the freezer already. Then it says a lot of garlic. Obviously, this is a serves 4, so it makes it a more sensible amount. It says about lemons, which are again fine. And then it says also about a red chilli, which I currently have some of. Also says about some orange flower honey. Well, I'm just going to get some new regular honey rather than any particular fancy specific honey, because I don't go through it enough to need multiple different types. And then here we go. Yeah, and it's just saying to do it with some rice and some vegetables, in terms of, say, some sweet green peas or something like that. I'll probably end up doing mine with broccoli or something, to be honest, because I normally have broccoli around anyway. But again, a super simple thing to be doing. So that does take me up to those 5 recipes. So let's see whether I can find one more. And I say one more just because there are sometimes, there'll be at least one day of the week where I don't necessarily want to do it, or where some of these might create leftovers as well. And I don't necessarily want to end up getting too far into the book specifically. But we can see. The main thing I have to consider as well, like I say, it's just in terms of the ingredients all cooperating together. I don't want to end up purchasing loads and loads of different items and then having to figure out what to do with them next week or something as well. Guys, I have found my final recipe located on the 29th of March, which is page 110 of this book. And it is just simply a chorizo carbonara, and apologies to everyone that knows exactly how those words should be pronounced, because I'm very well aware that a British accent does them no justice. But again, with that, yes, I do need to purchase some chorizo, but I will be able to then incorporate it into other things as well. I could even potentially bring it into the all-day breakfast wrap that I'm going to do. And then I have the oil and the pasta type is asking for. And again, eggs, I'm just thinking here, I probably will need to get some more eggs with how many I do currently need to go through. And then it says about some Parmesan cheese as well. So I will end up needing to find recipes to incorporate that next week, or things for like lunches and things as well. But then I do have everything else as well already. So it's definitely not too bad. List that I have gathering up so far. So I'm just going to take a look to see if there are any more recipes until the end of March. This is a dessert, so that's not particularly helpful. And then the next one is a dessert as well. And don't get me wrong, both of those desserts sound great. So that does at least take me all the way through until April, which by the time we probably get back to doing this book, it will be way beyond April anyway. So it will all work out. But yeah, so with that, I'm planning to do the all-day breakfast wrap, some spring onion Welsh rarebit, some 5-spice salmon, some onion and mushroom quesadillas, some lemon chili chicken, and some chorizo carbonara over the course of a week. Just giving a recipe for every day of the year book a try as well. So that will be coming up on my channel over the next week or so. So if it is something that you think you might enjoy watching, then do remember to subscribe so you actually have it pop up. Obviously, you can hit that bell if you desperately want to make sure that you don't miss it and you get to see it immediately. And if you did enjoy the simple go-through of everything, then do consider hitting the thumbs up. And then I'll consider doing some more, obviously, when it's sort of next week ahead for any of the other ones as well. But that is all for now. So thank you for watching. Take care. Bye for now.